All right, to start our discussion and thinking tonight, I want to read two Bible verses. The first one is the verse I read last week, and I just really like it, so I want to read it again. It's from Jeremiah 6:16. This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. And that's a good verse, whether you are on pilgrimage or taking a hike, or you are working to live a good life here in our community. The next verse is what an angel asks to Abraham and Sarah's maidservant, who is wandering and is lost in the wilderness. And it's from Genesis 16:8. The angel says to Hagar, "Where have you come from, and where are you going?" I think those are important questions for anyone to be thinking about, whether they are walking on pilgrimage, outside taking a hike in nature, or trying to live their best life here in our community. Okay, last week we talked about getting ready for something big, and we talked about holy places, and we thought about holy places. So tonight let's continue that conversation about what we feel when we're at holy places, what we get from those places when we are at, and this is a word that the Celtic Christians like to use, thin places. Places where the distance between heaven and earth, the veil between the physical and the holy just feels really thin. So where I started my pilgrimage on the Isle of Iona off the western coast of Scotland, it really felt holy. As soon as you stepped onto the island, onto the harbor, as soon as you even approached it and you looked at it, it just looked special. And even the land itself, even though the island is only about 3 miles long, it has beautiful diversity of mountains, moors, grasslands, bogs, marshes, beaches, cliffs, hills. And the beaches themselves seemed holy and almost mythic. I think I said last week, it's kind of like you're walking through Middle Earth of the Lord of the Rings. And the beaches, about every 100 yards, they would be different. So you would be walking, and this beach would be all jagged rocks. And so you couldn't even go down to the water. But then this beach would be all stone pebbles about the size of your hand. And when the waves would come up and then leave, it would make the sound of. Some beaches were normal sand, some were grass. There was one beach that was all white sand, and the legend had it that that's where the monks were standing and watching when the Viking ships attacked and killed all the monks in the 800s. And so the legend says that the white sands of the beach ran red with the monks' blood that day. This beach right here, in particular, is a very special beach. It's on the southern tip of the island. So that's where, according to legend, St. Columba landed when he left Ireland in exile. And he landed on Iona and decided to start a church and a monastery. So that's called Columba's Bay. And because it's on the very southern tip, in the village, the harbor is on the eastern side. You really have to walk up and over and around and through the mud and hop and over stones and around the little rock. So you really have to work at it to get there, but it's really special. There would be rainbows like every other day because it was so rainy there a lot, but then so sunny. It would be bright and sunny and hot for 20 minutes, and then the clouds would come, and it would be really strong wind and gray for 20 minutes, and then the rain would start, and the rain would just pour down for 20 minutes, and then it would stop, and the clouds would move, and the sun would come back out, and it would be bright and hot and sunny, so I had to keep changing all the layers that I was wearing, and just beautiful rainbows that delighted us. And by the end of the week, when I was there, I didn't take them for granted, but it was almost to be expected because of the magic of Iona. Just, oh yes, there's another rainbow because Iona. And a good reminder, you can't have the beauty of rainbows without the rain.
When we were in Scotland, we called that rain shine.
Ooh, rain shine. That's good. That's good. A lot of rain, but a lot of sun. Yeah, I assumed that it was the law. It had to rain every day in Scotland. At least a little bit, just a little bit. It was according to law, it had to rain just a little bit. So yeah, rain shine, for sure, for sure. When I would go walking, sometimes there would be a path and sometimes not. These were, you look at it and you see, oh, what lovely grassland with little puffs and plumes of grass plants. And so when I was going to Columbus Bay, I thought, well, the path takes me all the way around this field, but that's a waste of time. I'll just go straight through. So I learned there's a reason that paths are there. And even though it looks like solid ground, it is not. It is a bog swamp. And you never knew when you would step, would it be an inch of water and mud, or would it be like 6 inches of water and mud? And you couldn't see because of the grass. And so I got about 100 yards and realized I've made a terrible mistake. Beautiful, yes, but most of the ground in Scotland was mud, and that's okay. This grassland did steal one of the shirts that I had brought with me. I was trudging through and hiking and sweating, and I had taken off that layer and tied it around my waist. And 30 minutes later, I was hiking maybe 1 mile an hour because it was so slow going. And I was up and down hills, and I looked, and my shirt was no longer tied on my waist. And I turned around, and I could not see it anywhere. And I thought, well, Iona has taken my shirt, and it could be a gift. And I leave it here. That's okay. That hill is the highest hill on Iona. And I did end up hiking to the top, and as I would walk around, I would see these beaches and these hills and mountains. I would wonder, like, is this where Saint Aidan walked as he was trained in ministry? Is this where he played with the young Prince Oswald before Oswald grew up and traveled across Britain and then asked Aidan for help? Is this where they played hide and seek? Is this where, and you would go and you find where a hermit's prayer cell was. That was like 1,400 years old. And I would think, is this where St. Columba would find a quiet place by himself to pray? Because he was in charge of the island, and so he would have wanted a solitary place to pray. And I would just think of all the rich history and how many holy men and women had walked on the ground there, and it really did feel like a thin place. This is on the top of that mountain. The mountain's name is Dun E, and Dun in Scottish Gaelic means hill, and E with the capital I is Scottish Gaelic for Iona. So it's just the hill of Iona, and I could see the abbey, the church right there where we would worship, and right there is the little village with the harbor. And that's just the outside. Just the land itself felt holy. But while I was there on the island of Iona, I went to 3 prayer services every day, morning, afternoon, and night. And most of the prayer services were in this medieval abbey. I think I said last week, this structure was built about 900 years ago. The original church would have been wooden with a thatch roof that would not have survived, and the Vikings would have destroyed everything. So this structure was built only 900 years ago. But I mean, I don't go into a lot of worship spaces that are 900 years old. It's really quite something to just see this and approach it. So this is approaching the front door. That was from the back, like from the beach. So here's the front door, and you can see on the right and on the left, there are 2 tall stone Celtic crosses. So here's the trivia that I learned. It's believed that on Iona is where that Celtic cross design was first used. They were just called high crosses back then. They weren't called Celtic crosses until the 1800s. But that they wanted since the cross symbolized Jesus and Jesus' love and sacrifice, they wanted it to be beautiful, and so they would carve intricate patterns in it, or they would carve pictures of biblical stories and scenes, and it's got that circle around it. And I learned why there's a circle around it. Are there any guesses why there's a circle around Celtic crosses?
Supports the arms.
Because the arms kept falling down. The arms kept falling down because they're heavy. It's stone, especially the one on the left. It's kind of hard to see. By the one on the right, they were like, we need shorter arms. They keep falling down. But the one on the left, right in front of the building, has very wide arms, and they kept falling down. And so the monks thought, well, we need some support. And so it was a very practical idea to make the circle to support the wide arms, and that lovely design has continued today. So here inside the Abbey, inside the church, that's where I would go for a 9 a.m. and a 9 p.m. worship, and all the other people who had gathered on the island. And now it kind of functions almost like a retreat center, because there was a lot of different people there that week, and throughout the year they come on pilgrimage to worship and have retreats. So those people from all over the world who are there. And there is kind of a staff of both volunteers and paid staff of different denominations who manage the Abbey Church and who take turns leading the worship services. So they have a hymnal and a prayer book, and every service had a little different theme and a different style, and each worship leader would bring their own kind of flavor of prayers and music. The walls are natural stone and 900 years old. So because they are somewhat porous, ferns would grow through the walls. So those are not Christmas decorations that they had put up. Those are just naturally growing ferns that grow through the walls, because it is organic stone that is porous and was very lovely to look at. So this wall had fallen into disrepair over the centuries, but they left it so that they could put a piano up there and some musicians and a soundboard. So I like that even in the ruins could be beautiful as well. So even though originally there would have been a full wall there, but over the centuries it fell down and crumbled, they used the ruined nature to make beautiful music, which is really sweet. And I like that they had a play area for kids. Even in a 900-year-old church, they had Legos and fun little activities for a kids' play area, just like we do in the back corner of their church and in our church. And I was really fascinated. So this is their sound guy, and he would have an iPad that he could control the soundboard from his iPad, and during the services, like each service, he would sit in a different place inside the Abbey Church, and he would kind of listen, and he would adjust the volume on his iPad, which I thought was pretty funny that this 900-year-old monastery was far more advanced than my church was as far as technology. But he had a tricky job of managing the audio in a 900-year-old stone rock structure. And we would sit there on the sides in wooden seats that would have been hundreds of years old, that in the past, like a choir or monks would have sat in. And it was remarkable just to walk in and sit down inside in a building that was almost 1,000 years old. And I would wonder, how many prayers have been prayed here over 900 years? How many songs and hymns have been sung? How many tears have been cried? Because we would have intense and deep prayer times. And so some of us would cry some tears, and I'm sure over 900 years, tears have been cried. So that's what I would think. What do you think about that? What are the prayers to God you think these walls might have heard over the centuries?
Give us peace.
Give us peace. Yeah, and that's a prayer that was probably repeated every century. Yeah, give us peace. What other prayers might these walls have heard?
Save us. I mean, there were, I'm sure, conflicts
Mm-hmm.
on the island.
Yeah, save us, help us,
Help us.
protect us from attacks. Mhm.
Similar to us, sickness, health problems, all the
Yeah.
things that happen.
This has been a place of pilgrimage where Christians have come for centuries. And so, just not just the monks who would staff it back in the Middle Ages, but just us kind of people who would go and would pray for their loved ones, for those who were sick, things they were worried about. And give us peace. Protect us, O Lord. The same things that we pray for today. It was just powerful to have those prayers that you said, that I have said, echo around me for 900 years, and that the stone walls could hold that. Okay, next question. How should our mindset be different when we go to a special place like this, when we go to a holy place, when we go on a special church trip, a mission trip, a holy trip? How should our mindset itself be different? What do you think? We talked about preparation last week, so when we're there, when we're on that special trip, should we have a different mindset at all?
I think we'd probably be more tuned in.
Yes, tuned in. I think that's a perfect summary. Tuned in like to what?
To the presence of the Holy Spirit.
The presence of the Holy Spirit at work, speaking to us, at work, in the other people around us, at work, speaking through others who are talking or leading in worship. Yeah, being more attuned. I call that having a pilgrim's mindset. So that's one of the challenges for me coming home and for all of us. Don't wait until you go somewhere special and holy and had to pay a lot of money to get there to be attuned to what the Holy Spirit's doing. Do that now. Do that here. Like we said last week, this is a holy place. This is a beautiful place. God's Holy Spirit is working in our community here. So that's the challenge. It's easy when you're in somewhere that has held 900 years of prayers and tears. But to be more attuned to the Holy Spirit right here. And when you can do that and have that mindset and be open to holy surprises, you won't believe what you'll run into. For example, let me give you the backstory on how I even thought about this trip. It's a 20-year-old story that I'll summarize in 2 minutes. So 20 years ago, right after Sarah and I got out of seminary, and before I started writing the Bible study curriculum, I was working at a mental disability center as a caseworker for a year while we were kind of figuring out where we would land and end up. And I had like 45 clients in my caseload at this mental disability center, which was true ministry, but also truly challenging. And I really needed like a daily prayer rhythm to kind of help keep me focused and calm and spiritually energized. And so I just kind of like searched online for kind of daily prayers. And I found this website that had daily prayers inspired by Celtic Christian devotionals. And they were really lovely, so I printed them out, I put them on my wall, and every day you could go online and had a devotional thought. And so I'd read them every day, and I saw that the group that made the website also published a book. And I thought, oh, that would be a good, put it on my wish list for anybody needs to give me a present or something. And so Sarah got me the book of Celtic Daily Prayer devotional readings for my first Father's Day, right after Sean was born. And I have used it ever since for my personal devotion times, for our staff meeting devotions, for prayers that we've used, that benediction that I used at the end of worship on Sunday that you've heard me speak many times, that came from this book. And the stories, the devotional stories, would be about the ancient Celtic Christians. So I learned who St. Columba was. I learned about the island of Iona and how this sweet man named Aidan was trained in ministry on Iona, and then he walked across to this other island, Lindisfarne, and helped bring the good news of Jesus to the people on the East Coast. And it was this book that helped me learn those stories. So when I was able to take a sabbatical, I thought, I want to do something neat and rich and deep and challenging. I remember reading about St. Aidan, how he was willing to walk across all of Britain to carry the love of God to people who hadn't known him. And this book and that website was published by a group near Lindisfarne called the Northumbria Community. And I had not heard of them before, but I really loved the book, and that inspired me. So fast forward. So I'm on Iona, and on the Sunday that we were there, as many places do, they had a coffee and snack fellowship after Sunday worship. And so the worship leader said, everyone will get a coffee or a cup of tea, and you'll get a cookie. They call them biscuits. He said, you'll get a biscuit, and I want you to share your biscuit with someone you don't know. So we go into their fellowship hall, which is, it's kind of like on the left of the sanctuary there. It's on the left. And so I've got my biscuit. It's kind of like a little shortbread cookie. So I break it in half, and I think, well, let me find somebody I don't know. Because there's maybe 50 people or something. And so I see a lady who's just kind of standing there, and she looks to be maybe in her 60s. And so I go up and I say, hey, I don't know you. Would you like to share my biscuit? And she said, oh yes, that'd be great. I could hear she had a North American accent. And I said, oh, where are you from? She said, Washington State. And I said, well, that's neat. What brought you here? And she said, I'm here on a retreat. This week, I'm on a retreat. I said, that's cool, I'm on a retreat too. And she said, my retreat is in the Church of England, like Episcopal Retreat Center building. And I had passed it. And so I knew where that was. And she said, you should come by. It's a really good group of people. And I said, okay, well, I'm a curious fellow. I like exploring. And so the next day, I go to the Episcopal Anglican Retreat Center building. And I walk in, and it was really rainy, so as you do. And so I walked in, I'm kind of going, whoo, shaking off the rain. And I'm looking around, I see a little chapel and a little common area. And this woman, this British woman, walks up, and like she had walked out of Downton Abbey or something. She walks up and she says, oh, hello there. And I said, hello, I just walked in, I was exploring, I wanted to see what was here. And she said, all right, you're very welcome. We're the Northumbria community. And I said, really? I love the Northumbria community. I have your book. And she said, oh, would you like to come in and join us for a cup of tea and a biscuit? I said, yes, sure. And so she leads me into their common room, their hangout room, and turns out there's a retreat of about 40 people there that week that this Christian Community Retreat Center had organized. Every year they plan a retreat on Iona that week, and they were meeting that week, and I had bumped into them. And so she said, here, have a seat, I'll fetch you a cup of tea, milk and sugar, yes, better. And so I sat down, and there was all these British people there who were very fascinated with, what's this weird American doing here? And I said, well, 20 years ago, I got this book from the Northumbria community, and then now I'm on a sabbatical, and now I'm here. And they said, oh yeah, we use that book all the time. The guy who wrote it, he's right over there. They're going to say hello. And why don't you join us every afternoon for our prayer time. I said, I'd love to. So that was my afternoon prayer time, was going over to their retreat center house, and all of their services used the prayers and the blessings from this book that I've been reading 20 years. So I didn't even need to look at the program. I could just sit and let the words wash over me and come out of me. And I was able to chat with their group leader who wrote the book. And he was a wonderful, sweet, kind of wild John the Baptist kind of guy. And I could not believe the chances. You might be tempted to say, wow, what luck. But we would say, what providence. And I never even would have known those people were there. The guy who wrote this book that gave me the idea that brought me there, if I hadn't have tried to find someone who was alone in a crowd, and I thought, she might appreciate sharing my cookie. Let me go say hello to her. And I think that's what our response is to being attuned to God's Holy Spirit, is being willing to lean in to opportunities and surprises that we would not have expected, just being open and being ready to whatever people and experiences might be around us, to treat everything as potentially a holy opportunity. And wherever you are, to welcome strangers into your space and say hello and connect and then enjoy the blessings that come from surprise connections. So, again, take that as your challenge. Don't just go somewhere special on a retreat or a mission trip and be attuned to neat surprise blessings, but hold that with you. And man, you won't see coming the neat things that you'll get to experience. Well, after our retreat, here's a picture. Should I show this? So this was the chapel, the little worship room in that Episcopal Anglican Retreat Center. This was a newer building, so I think it was only like 500 years old. And that's where they would meet for their afternoon prayers. And so I got to sit down, and I'm still in touch with them, friends on Facebook, and just really neat connections. So, after a few days, spiritual retreat, finished on Iona. My group of North Carolina Baptist ministers, we took the ferry and then the bus and then the other ferry back to the mainland, back to the town on the coast of Scotland, Oban, where I said goodbye to the other 12 folks in the group. And they continued on by train going to Glasgow and flying back. So their journey was coming to an end, but mine was about to kick into high gear. So I slept there that night in the second smallest room that I stayed in while I was there. But it's fine. I had everything I needed: a bed, a bathroom, even a chair. So it was a great start. But the night before my first walk started, I was having some feelings. So what about you? How do you feel right before you do something really big? Something you planned, a big opportunity. What kind of feelings do you have before you step out and do it? Fear. Yes. How does the fear manifest itself for you? Like different, like I have my own things. Like, what's yours?
Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of questions.
Questions like, why am I doing this? Or what are the questions in regards to?
Trying to remember,
Mm-hmm.
that resilience that got me that far.
Yeah.
You made it that far on something.
Good encouragement reminders. Yeah. How do you feel like before you do something really big? Nervous. Yeah.
Excited/nervous.
Yes. You're excited and you're nervous.
Excited anticipation,
Anticipation about what it might be like.
looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hope it goes well. Can't wait. You might feel like their heart beating extra strongly. Boom. It feels like, I worry people can see my chest like going in and out, but my heart is beating so strongly.
I worry about that in an airplane.
Oh, like
Takes off.
taking off on airplanes? Sure, sure. Very shaky, takeoffs and landings, very shaky, sure. Well, I was feeling all of those things on the night before and the morning of. I was both nervous and excited. So that's my first walking morning. I had just stepped out of the little guest house, and it was really hitting me. What a crazy thing I was going to do. To walk 300 miles across Scotland. I thought, I hope this goes okay. I'm excited. I've come this far, prepared, but it is kind of crazy. But I reminded myself there's good encouragements. I'd done my research. I talked to people. I've got the equipment I needed. The Holy Spirit was with me. The prayers of many good people were with me. So with much fear and trembling, I was ready to take my first step. So that was me right before I crossed the threshold. And that was kind of my point of no return. Like, well, I could just stop now. I haven't taken one step yet. But I did. And it took me into some of the most beautiful terrain I have ever seen. So, what are some of the most beautiful landscapes that you've ever seen? And when you were there, what did you think about them and what did you feel? And we'll write them all down for our bucket lists. Ireland?
Was it fantastic?
Yes.
Everywhere.
Everywhere in Ireland. Yeah. Yeah.
But different.
Yeah. Agreed.
Coast of Maine.
The coast of Maine? Ooh, that's neat. Someone said Yosemite? Ooh, who said that? Yeah, very good. Yeah. Oh, Yosemite.
In the Arctic, where I was 100 miles from Lake North, the direct top of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And days last 6 months, and nights last 6 months. It's kind of hard to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
But in the spring of the year, when the sun comes up, these rays dance across the ice cap and across the skies, and it's almost like nature put on a sugar board. And everybody's sitting around oohing and ahhing,
Yeah.
watching this nature thing.
Yeah.
Not where we're not today without a sound.
Mm.
It's just happening and you're watching.
Wow.
It's kind of hard to explain. But
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those cases where the terrain is hit all. This is God's earth. This is what He's doing.
This is God's earth. Yeah. What else did you think? What did you feel when you saw the most beautiful landscapes you'd seen?
How blessed I am to be here.
Yeah. What a gift. Yeah. What a gift to see it. I repeated that phrase many, many times. What a gift. What a gift. A sense of awe. Maybe you feel kind of small if you're looking at great majesty. Yeah. So for all of my 18 days of walking, I was amazed the whole time. It was absolutely glorious. Every day, the terrain would change a little bit. In the highlands, there was more mountains. In the lowlands, there was still a lot of hills, but just the most beautiful valleys and meadows and glades. I kept wanting to take a picture every time I saw a beautiful scene, but that was like every 15 minutes. I would take a picture, go, that's so pretty, take a picture, and then I'd walk 15 minutes later, I'd go, oh gosh, now that's even prettier, take a picture. And after a while, I realized, I can't just go around taking pictures every 15 minutes, I'll never get there. And it was hard to not try to capture the beauty and take pictures of everything that I saw, but I just had to let go and let myself enjoy the majesty of creation. And my first day was one of the prettiest because it was sunny all day, and I was looking at the highlands as I approached, and so that's where I sat down and ate lunch. My first day, one of the few days I was able to sit down. I had time to sit down on dry ground and eat lunch. But just every day, so beautiful and just remarkable terrain. the majesty of creation would blow me away. That was my third day. This is my second day. That was my third day as I was getting into the highlands. I could see clouds approaching. I could feel when the rain was sweeping in. That's on Loch Lomond, the Bonnie Banks. Sometimes I took the high road, sometimes I took the low. And right there, I was taking the low road. I was right along the Bonnie Banks, and you could just start seeing some snow on the peaks of the mountains. And it was so pretty, just so pretty. That's as I was leaving Loch Lomond. I hiked along the Bonnie Banks for about 3 days, about 2.5 days, and that was kind of my last view of it. I'm going to take a picture to remember before I said goodbye. And there would be waterfalls and rapids, and the trees were changing colors. In the valleys, I could see the town that I was approaching when I was maybe like 4 miles away. I could see where I was going, and most of the time I didn't see too many people while I was out during the day, so it was just me and my pilgrim's shadow and a million sheep as I would walk, and they'd stare at me with suspicious looks, and I would give them the Scottish greeting, "Hiya, pal." So it was beautiful in different ways. Sometimes it would be covered in mist, and there was a beauty even in the mist. It made me think like I was about to wander into Brigadoon. Has anyone ever seen Brigadoon? You can only get there like once every 100 years, and the mist totally surrounds you, and you get lost. I thought, I might be wandering into Brigadoon right now. So even in the rain, it had beauty. Even in the mist, it had beauty. But it was certainly not easy. Many days. So next question, how do you react when things don't go according to your plans or unforeseen difficulties pop up? How do you react to those challenges?
Too well.
Not too well. Good. I'm not the only one. Good. Okay.
Pray.
You pray, yes. Like, please, Lord, let's get this taken care of. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to, as a follow-up, since you're one of the sweetest people we all know, what does it look like when you don't react too well?
Here we go again.
Here we go. Yeah. And I would think that too, and that the here we go again feeling, it makes the challenge heavier. Like the 10th time it happens. How else do you react or respond when those unforeseen challenges pop up?
Oh, I sometimes have a meltdown.
A meltdown. Good. Everyone has a right to have a meltdown every now and then. What?
Good.
What do you mean?
That was good.
Yeah, get it out, man. Let it out. Don't hide it under a bushel. No, like just let it out. Don't try and keep it stuffed in there. Just let it out. And I'll admit, when I knew that there wasn't anybody else around for miles, I would say some words you can't say in Sunday school. And also, but I tried to keep it fresh. I would say some good gracious, holy Moses, good golly Miss Molly. Every exclamation in the whole book, just to keep it new and interesting, as I shouted, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe how hard this is." I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets upset, has a hard time handling them. I had the opportunity, the blessing to practice how I would respond to those challenges. So I tried to treat it as a learning opportunity because a lot of places were really, really steep for a long, long time. And the trail sometimes would be completely invisible, and I couldn't see where I was supposed to go. A lot of times because of that, I would take wrong turns, or there would be a crossroads with no signage, and I would think it's that way, and I would get far down and realize I'd made a wrong turn. A lot of days were rainy all day long, and they would make puddles that were like 10 feet by 10 feet and 6 inches deep, and there was no way to get around them without getting your socks wet. And when it's raining all day and there's only mud everywhere and your shoes are already wet, you don't need to sit down in the mud and put on dry socks. You just kind of keep going and going. And so then that would make some blisters arise on various toes. It was kind of like whack-a-mole on my toes. Oh, another blister! Rah! Oh, gotta get the Band-Aids out! Rah! And about a week into it, my feet was like a rainbow of bandages. I had moleskin and duct tape and Band-Aids and Compeed and just every kind of thing to cover up the blisters. I would take they were pain relievers when the feet would get sore, the shoulders would get sore. There was 3 moments that were the most perilous, that were the scariest, and I called them my precipice of uncertainty. And I could feel, I'm on the precipice of uncertainty right now. I don't know what the rest of the day might look like or my short life might look like for its very brief remainder. I don't know how this is going to go. One of the pictures I showed you right there, so it's lovely in that moment, and I had just come over that rise. I learned that's a glen. A glen is like a wide valley. And so there was a wide valley on the other side, and that was a pass through those highland mountains, the Glen No Pass. And walking up it, there's an access road on this side. On the other side, there's nothing. There's just grass and bog and rocks and sheep. And the wind and the rain that day, the wind would like knock me over. It was so strong. And I had a poncho over my backpack, but the wind would blow from every direction, and it would blow up, and it would blow my poncho up and over me, and it would blow my hats off, and everything was wet, even though all of my gear everything was in a waterproof bag, in a trash bag, in a waterproof backpack with a rain cover over it, and it would still get wet. And it was just so difficult, and I thought, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know I can take one more step. So I say one more step. I don't know how this is going to go, but I know I need to head toward that pass right there. I thought they were going to rename it no longer Glen No Pass, but Stuart's Folly, when they found my body and I couldn't find it. And they learned what some crazy minister was doing over there. And when I got over the rise, I could see this access road, and it was like an oasis in the desert. And so I shouted out to the sheep, "It's a road! It's a road!" But I didn't know when I was going up the other side. I did not know what was going to happen. When I was walking down Loch Lomond on my longest day, I was supposed to walk down to a ferry crossing and catch the ferry. And I made it there right as the sun went down, and that's when I learned that they had canceled the ferry. And so I had to walk in total darkness and rain back up the banks of Loch Lomond, which were not that bonny, running in the dark rain and onto a highway. And by the time I got to the hotel, my face was numb and I was delirious and shouting because I hadn't planned to walk that far. And it was really, really close. It was really close. The third time was, so I see this isn't even a castle, it's just a gatehouse on the property where there was a castle later. So I see this, it's so lovely. Scotland, it's like a life-size Thomas Kincaid painting. And I'm just walking around in all the glow and the buildings. And then right after that, I get to this map, and it says that the trail that I'm walking on is closed up ahead because there's a bridge out and like steps have gotten broken, so it's unsafe. And I saw that there on the map, there's kind of like a bright red kind of tracing path, and I thought, oh, the map's telling me I need to take that bright red path. It was not. It was telling me there's a busy highway right there. And so I ended up walking on this highway for about 2 miles, and the shoulder was about this wide, and me and my backpack were like this wide. The cars were going like 60 miles an hour, just zoom, zoom, zoom. And I didn't think I could run with 25 pounds on my back, but I certainly did. And I did not know what was going to happen. But I knew I could take one more step really, really fast. One step at a time. There were other detours that I did not know about. I was supposed to go across a bridge here, and I get to a sign that says bridge closed. Not only that, but there was, as you can see, no evidence there was ever a bridge there in all the history. Like I said, I go into buildings that were like 1,000 years old, but there was supposed to be a bridge, and there was no evidence that there'd ever been any bridge, so I had to go, keep following the river a few miles out of the way. Here, I was following this other river, kind of under the highways, and at one point, the path I was on was so flooded that the river had just taken over the path, and it would have been kind of almost up to my knees for about 30, 40 yards. And so I thought, well, let me try and go up, across the highway, over the bridge, and this was the embankment. It's like a 20-foot high embankment. I had to slide down to get back on the trail. So you never know what kind of detours life will throw at you. You just have to be ready to figure it out, to keep your cool if you are able to. You can freak out, you can take a moment. I'm going to freak out for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to get back to taking one step at a time. Miraculously, thankfully, I made it where I needed to be every night without injury. I can't believe that. And even eventually I made it to the very end. So 300 miles, walking across Scotland, that is the holy island of Lindisfarne. I could see it as I approached. That's the island that Aidan walked to, and he founded a church and a monastery there. So I walked. So there you can see there's a map, and you can see it's got this long arm that reaches out kind of towards the mainland. And if you remember, Lindisfarne is only an island half of the day when the tide is in. But when the tide goes out, you can kind of walk across it. And they have a road where cars can drive across, just a one-lane road where cars can drive when the tide is out. So for 1,000 years, pilgrims have walked across, they call it the Pilgrim's Causeway. They can walk across the sand. I learned it's more mud than sand, but there's these ancient poles stuck into the sand to guide pilgrims 3 miles from the edge of the mainland to Lindisfarne. And so, since I was a pilgrim, it was time to do some mud walking, some sand walking. So it was 3 miles, and I think I spent 1 mile celebrating, 1 mile crying, 1 mile laughing, just amazed that God had helped me get this far and make this journey. By the end, I was pretty muddy. Sometimes the mud would be kind of halfway up my calf. This was after the water had washed off most of the mud, and my feet sometimes would sink deep into the mud. But it gave a wonderful catharsis for that to be the final stretch, the final challenge, the final push. So what about you? How do you feel when something big, you finally pulled it off, you finally finished it, you did it, it happened? How do you feel? What do you do?
It's the last time I'll ever do that.
That's right. That was great. I'll never do it again.
Rejoice.
Rejoice. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Go on the honeymoon.
Go. What do you mean? I got her. She's not giving away now. Let's go on a honeymoon. Yeah. And that's good. That's a good, culmination of, a relationship and betrothal and wedding and celebration. Mm-hmm. You need to celebrate that. You need to note, I did that thing, whether it's little or big, whatever accomplishment it is, say, I did that. God was with me. It was hard. I didn't know if I would make it through, but I did it. It came off. When I was at Lindisfarne, I spent another 5 days there, taking a spiritual retreat as the final bookend of my time. And I continued to have the feeling like I was swimming in history. Even though the important events were like 500 years before, 1,000 years before, 1,400 years ago, everybody was still talking about them. Everybody knew they were important, and those events still had an effect on their lives today. They would still talk about it. So this is the ruins of the monastery, the abbey that's on Lindisfarne. It had not been rebuilt. The one in Iona was rebuilt about 100 years ago. It wasn't destroyed too much. But the one on Lindisfarne had, over the centuries, fallen into ruin, but a lot of the structure was still there. And the cemeteries were beautiful even of themselves, because most of the markers and the tombstones had those beautiful Celtic crosses marking the graves. But you would just walk through this history. It's kind of like if you've ever been to like, I don't know, has anyone ever been to a Civil War battlefield? Or, a place where the Declaration of Independence was signed, or, like the Liberty Bell, or just some place where these big important things happened. And you can just kind of feel it resonates with the importance of it. So I walk into the local church there on Lindisfarne, and of course it's an Anglican Church of England church. And you know how our church, most churches, have pictures of the list of the pastors on the wall. Our church has all the fine pastors going back 103 years. Well, on Lindisfarne, their list of pastors goes back 1,400 years. And they have everybody's name listed. So I don't know if you can see it, but the very first one right there, Aidan, 635 AD. And then it goes from there. And the minister who's there now, Sarah, she led the worship services. I went there Sunday morning, and they would do an evening prayer time. I went there every evening for prayer. And I can't imagine ministering amongst just the weight of that history. Walking, it was right by the front door, like when you walk into church. I'm like, that's such a, the air is thick with the history. It just fills the mood that reminds you it's a heavy space. So in the vestibule of that church, like the foyer, they had this statue that depicts St. Cuthbert's coffin being carried. You might remember we did a little review last week. After Aidan died, he was in charge of the monastery at Lindisfarne. There was a young man in the nearby town of Melrose who felt a call to ministry, Cuthbert, and then he was so promising and beloved that he got promoted, and eventually he became the bishop and the director of Lindisfarne, and is even now the most beloved saint in English history. And so they had a statue that commemorates St. Cuthbert's funeral, and he would have died in like the year 700 AD. And that's the statue in their church vestibule. And then right off the coast of Lindisfarne is another tiny island that's called Cuthbert's Island, where St. Cuthbert, in his older age, he would go there just to get away and pray. He was always trying to spend more time praying, spend more time talking to God, but he was so wise and humble that everyone wanted his advice, and they wanted him to lead their churches. And he always wanted to go and spend time alone with the Lord and pray. So he would go to this island, and they still call it Cuthbert's Island. I wasn't able to reach it because it only had a smaller window when the tide was out. But a lot of people did go there, and you could just feel the memory, the legacy of St. Cuthbert was still very alive and well, even though he died in like the year 700. And then in this church, also in the foyer of this church, there is an apology letter from the Church of Norway. And they came to Lindisfarne in the year 1993, And they said, and if you want to, you read the letter later, but the letter says, 1,200 years ago, on this year, Vikings came and ransacked Lindisfarne, killed the people, stole the church's valuables, and we just want to apologize for that. We're sorry. 1,200 years later, it still was a thing. I mean, you know, we might kind of carry a grudge, or, you know, we're still kind of upset about that thing that happened like 5 years ago. But this is 1,200 years later. They brought an apology letter. And so they brought a little bust of the Norwegian king Olaf, who, because the Vikings kept raiding England and Scotland and raiding these monasteries, eventually the Vikings became Christians and took the Christian faith back to Norway. So the king became a Christian and became a saint in Norway. And so the Church of Norway brought the Saint Olaf, King Olaf, a little plaque as a gift. But just to think that such history was still alive and well was remarkable. We pretend that that all the important things are happening now. That whatever's happening now, that's what's important. And our country is so young in comparison that we forget that people have had disagreements for 1,000 years, or there can be grudges that are 1,000 years old, or special people who had an influence 1,000 years ago to be surrounded by all that history was really powerful. It made Lindisfarne didn't feel so much like a thin place; it felt like a thick place, because the air was thick with all of this history and with all of these stories and these monks and churches and Vikings and saints. To move into the application lesson time, what I really learned on my crazy walk was that life itself is a pilgrimage, that life itself is a journey. And so a hike or a walk, it's a great metaphor for our spiritual walk, our journey in life. Some days on the trail or in our community, some days will be bright and sunny, will be easy and delightful and bring brightness. Other days might be miserable and gray and difficult and cold, and it feels like you're slogging through mud for miles and miles and miles in life. And you didn't cause that mud. It's there. You just have to get through it. The question is, how will we deal with it? You never know when the sun might come out and shine on you. Like Jesus said in the New Testament, the Lord makes the rain fall on both the just and the unjust. And the sun shines on the godly and the ungodly. We don't know what days will be easy and nice. We don't know what days might bring us challenge. So, how will we deal with it? When I was walking, I needed to be ready to deal with whatever came. If a downpour came, I knew what I needed to do to get ready for it. I had my layers and I had my gear. I had my rain jackets, I had my hats, I had my neck gaiters. I had to be ready so that I didn't get completely soaked from head to toe, get more drenched than I already was, be weighed down and made miserable. So we need to be prepared for the possible hard days of life. We need to equip ourselves and have whatever kind of spiritual gear and layers that we need. And sometimes you just have to get creative. There was a few times where I had to climb over some fences. I had to scale a wire fence just so I didn't step in like ankle-deep mud. Sometimes you just got to get creative. And even when you've got all your gear, you've done all your preparation, life can still just overwhelm you. It can be more than you think you can get through. And you might think, I don't know if I'm going to make it. That day when I was in the highlands and the trail was invisible and the wind and the rain were banging me down, I didn't see another person the entire day. I didn't see a human for 8 hours. I had no cell signal, and I was trying to walk up a swamp, and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I can take one more step. And so then after that, it kind of became an encouragement I would use. So when I would get to another hill, and I'd say, man, how am I going to get there? One step at a time. One step at a time. How am I going to get there? One step at a time. Same for life. When life's beating us down, how am I going to get through this? One step at a time. The interesting thing that I noticed about walking in beautiful places is figuring out where to look. And I realized this when our hike group would go on hikes, because I would want to look around at the beauty of all creation. I thought I had another picture. I wanted to look around and see everything. There we go. I just want to see everything. And so I'll be walking and just looking like that. And if you ever hike and you're only looking like that, what's going to happen? You would trip over rocks and roots and cracks and step in the mud. So then I had to start looking like this. But wouldn't that have been a shame if I spent 18 days in Scotland only looking down? So I had to keep a balance. A big scale view and a small scale view. Same thing in life. If we don't pay attention to the little things in life, we'll get tripped up unnecessarily. But if we only pay attention to the little things, and we think only these little steps are important, then we miss the bigger picture of what God is doing around us. Also, in life, as well as on pilgrimage, you have to think about the baggage that you carry. Everyone carries baggage. There's no getting around it. What's important is that we know what we're carrying, and we know how to handle it, and we're not carrying anything unnecessarily that's weighing us down too much. I was constantly deciding what things I didn't need. Like every night, I would kind of lay out my stuff, and after a few days, I'd realize I don't need this. I'm going to leave this pair of shorts here. I'm going to leave this shirt here. I'll leave this pair of underwear, this whatever it is. And so it's kind of like Hansel and Gretel. I would leave little clothing items in my hotel, and they could do with them whatever they wished, donate them to Goodwill or something. But I was realizing I didn't need all the stuff that was weighing me down. Same for you, same for us in life. Maybe you're carrying things that you don't need to carry, and maybe you can let go and walk a little lighter and a little freer. Sometimes you can see when there's dark clouds coming, and I could certainly see when dark clouds were coming, when the rain was coming. So I had some Bible verses and some mantras, some prayers that were ready to go. So make sure you've got some of those too. Some good prayers, some good Bible verses, good encouragement reminders. So we can, when you feel some of those dark rain clouds coming, you can have those ready, and they can keep you going. Let's see, some days you just get really worried and you do freak out and you can have a meltdown. And that's me like freaking out that I might not make it. But you just got to get through. The whole time I felt clumsy, I felt like an idiot, I felt inefficient, I kept dropping things. I would think, how many times can I drop my gloves in the mud? The answer was infinity times. How many times? I couldn't reach my stuff, and I'd like pull a muscle trying to reach my water bottle, and I would think, where did I pack that? And I didn't like it because I'm a perfectionist. I like everything being really in order. And it was quite an exercise in me giving myself grace and getting through and accomplishing something, even though not everything was perfect and where I needed to be. And I would drop things, I would lose stuff. I lost my earmuffs, I lost a shirt, I lost a little satchel. I mean, it's going to happen. You can decide to let it ruin your day, or you can say, it's a gift to be here, and I'm going to enjoy this gift. So in closing, let's see. The challenge, like I said, have a pilgrim's mindset. Remember that you are on a pilgrimage. Enjoy it, but be open to the surprises. There's a lot of surprises that God has for you in life. And if you can just be ready and be open even to the challenging days, you'll be surprised. You might still hurt, you'll have some pain, you might be stumped, flummoxed, but you can get through it with God's help, with our support, one step at a time. So, I'll stop there and I'll end with a prayer from this book that gave me the idea to go to Scotland, and the community I ran into, and the author who I'm now friends with. So here is an ending blessing for your journey. O God, make clear to us each road. O God, make safe to us each step. When we stumble, hold us. When we fall, lift us up. When we are hard pressed with evil, deliver us and bring us at last to your glory. Amen. Go in peace.